You know that butterflies in your stomach feeling? Or that gut feeling that whispers, something's not right here. Turns out those might not just be expressions. They could be hinting at a real connection between our stomachs and our brains. Today we're going deep into the gut-brain axis to uncover how the bustling world inside our digestive system could be influencing our mental well-being.
It's a fascinating area.
We've got some really interesting research lined up that explores the gut microbiome, probiotics, and even how the food we choose might impact mood.
What's really captivating is that the communication between the gut and brain is a two-way street. It's not just the brain sending messages and controlling things. The gut can actually send signals back to the brain, influencing things like our mood and how clearly we think.
So it's like my stomach and brain are having a constant conversation. I'm curious, how do those messages even get transmitted?
Well, the vagus nerve is like a superhighway connecting the brain and the gut. Through this nerve, along with some other pathways, the gut can relay information directly back to the brain. It's through these pathways that scientists believe the gut can impact our mental state.
Wow. So my stomach has its own hotline to my brain. What kind of information are they sharing?
One of the key things they talk about is neurotransmitters.
Those chemical messengers, like serotonin and dopamine.
Exactly. The ones that regulate our mood. Well, get this. A surprising amount of these mood-regulating chemicals are actually produced in the gut, not just the brain.
Hold on, so the things that make me feel happy or stressed aren't just coming from my brain. My gut is making them too.
It's pretty mind-blowing, right?
Yeah, that totally changes how I think about things.
To understand this better, we need to explore the world of the gut microbiome. This is where things get really interesting. We're talking trillions of microorganisms living within our intestines.
I've heard about the microbiome, but trillions is hard to even imagine. What are all those microorganisms doing down there?
Think of it like a bustling city, with diverse populations of bacteria, viruses, fungi, and other microorganisms, all interacting with each other and with our bodies. This microbial balance, or sometimes imbalance, plays a crucial role in our overall health, including our mental well-being.
So if something throws off that balance, it could affect my mood.
That's what researchers are finding. When this microbial balance gets disrupted, it's called dysbiosis.
Dysbiosis.
Right, and it can be linked to various mental health conditions like anxiety and even depression. Some research even suggests a potential connection with autism spectrum disorder.
Wow, that's a lot to take in. So keeping my gut microbiome happy is critical for my mental health. What about probiotics? Could those help?
You're on the right track. Probiotics are those good bacteria that, when we eat them, can help restore balance to the gut microbiome. Scientists are even calling this emerging field of study psychobiotics, investigating how modifying the gut microbiome can impact mental well-being.
Psychobiotics, that's a new one for me. But it makes sense. So are we talking about taking a probiotic supplement every day, or are there other ways to get these good bacteria?
Both approaches have their place. There's some really compelling research highlighting the potential benefits of probiotic supplements. For instance, a study published in Psychiatry Research showed that individuals taking probiotic supplements reported reduced feelings of stress and anxiety compared to those who didn't. And there's another study in gastroenterology that linked certain probiotic strains to a decrease in depression symptoms.
So incorporating probiotics, whether through supplements or other means, could potentially give our brains a little extra support when it comes to mental well-being. I'm starting to understand the hype around probiotics.
It's not about a quick fix, but rather about understanding how these tiny organisms can contribute to a healthier and more balanced internal environment. But how do these probiotics actually work their magic? Well, one way is through the production of short-chain fatty acids.
Short-chain fatty acids, those sound familiar.
Remember those tiny messengers we talked about earlier? Probiotics produce these short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, which have remarkable anti-inflammatory properties. And here's the cool part. These tiny molecules can travel from the gut through the bloodstream all the way up to the brain.
So they're calming things down in the gut, and that has a ripple effect, calming down the brain as well. It's pretty neat. Sounds like probiotics are doing a lot more than just helping with digestion.
Absolutely. Probiotics also seem to play a role in modulating those mood-regulating neurotransmitters we talked about, like serotonin and dopamine. There's even evidence suggesting they can influence the production of BDNF.
BDNF?
Yes. It's a protein that's crucial for brain plasticity and cognitive function.
Brain plasticity. So like keeping our brains flexible and able to learn new things.
Exactly. Having a healthy gut microbiome, supported by probiotics, may contribute to a more adaptable and resilient brain. But it's not just about supplements. Our daily food choices can have a significant impact on the balance of our gut bacteria. One of the best ways to get a natural dose of probiotics is through fermented foods.
Fermented foods. Okay, I'm all ears. What are we talking about here?
Think yogurt.
Yeah.
Especially those with live and active cultures, they're packed with beneficial bacteria. Kefir is another great option. It's a fermented milk drink.
So yogurt and kefir. But what if you don't do dairy?
There are options for that too. Sauerkraut and kimchi are both excellent sources of probiotics.
Those fermented cabbage dishes.
That's right. And for something a bit trendier, kombucha is having a moment.
Oh yeah, kombucha is everywhere these days.
And let's not forget about miso. It's a fermented soybean paste that adds a delicious umami flavor to soups and other dishes.
So we've got yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, kombucha, and miso. All delicious ways to get those good bacteria into our system. But probiotics aren't the whole story, right? I've heard of prebiotics too. What are those exactly?
You're right. Prebiotics are a crucial part of the equation. Think of it this way. Probiotics are the players on a team, and prebiotics are the fuel that keeps them going.
Okay, I like that analogy.
They're non-digestible fibers that nourish and support the growth of those beneficial gut bacteria.
So probiotics are the players, and prebiotics are the fuel that keeps them going.
Got it. So if we're not getting enough prebiotics, our probiotic team might not be performing at their best.
Exactly. The good news is prebiotics are found in many common foods we eat every day.
Like what?
Garlic, onions, leeks, asparagus, bananas, those are all excellent sources of prebiotics. And let's not forget whole grains like oats and barley.
So many options.
Incorporating these foods into your diet can make a real difference in supporting a healthy and diverse microbiome. Okay, so I'm picturing a delicious stir fry with garlic, onions, asparagus, and maybe some brown rice on the side. That's a gut-healthy meal right there. What about polyphenols? You're good for the gut too, right?
They are. Polyphenols are powerful antioxidants found in foods like berries, dark chocolate, and green tea.
Oh, I like where this is going.
Polyphenols have been shown to have a positive impact on the gut microbiome, promoting the growth of beneficial bacteria. And remember those anti-inflammatory benefits we talked about? Polyphenols have those in spades, which is great news for both gut and brain health.
So we've got our probiotics, our prebiotics, and our polyphenols. It seems like taking care of our gut is a multifaceted approach. It might be tempting to just think, can I just take a probiotic supplement and call it a day? What are your thoughts on that?
While supplements can definitely be beneficial, especially for specific conditions or if you're looking for a targeted boost, it's crucial to remember that they shouldn't replace a healthy diet. I always advocate for a balanced diet rich in diverse whole foods as the foundation for good gut health.
So supplements can be helpful, but shouldn't be a substitute for making healthy food choices.
Exactly. And it's just as important to be mindful of the things that can negatively impact the gut microbiome. Processed foods, sugary drinks, and too much unhealthy fat can all disrupt the balance of your gut bacteria and potentially lead to negative consequences for both physical and mental well-being.
So it's a two-pronged approach. Adding those gut-friendly foods while also cutting back on the things that throw things off balance. That makes sense.
Precisely. It's about creating an environment where those beneficial gut bacteria can thrive.
This has been so eye-opening. I'm finally starting to understand how complex the gut-brain connection is and just how powerful it can be. It's not just about digestion anymore. It's about recognizing the gut's role in influencing our mental well-being.
I couldn't agree more. And as research continues, I think we'll uncover even more fascinating connections between the gut microbiome and the brain. It's truly a frontier of scientific exploration.
We've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive. The gut-brain axis, the intricate world of the microbiome, and how probiotics, prebiotics, and polyphenols can all play a role in supporting both our gut and brain health. But we're not done yet.
Definitely not. Stay tuned because in the next part of our deep dive, we'll be going even deeper into specific mental health conditions that might be influenced by the gut microbiome. We'll explore some cutting-edge research that's pushing the boundaries of what we know about this amazing connection. You won't want to miss it.
Wow, that was a lot to unpack. I'm still processing all that amazing information about the gut microbiome and its impact on mental well-being.
It really is a paradigm shift to think about our gut playing such a big role in our mental health.
You mentioned that we'd be exploring specific mental health conditions that might be influenced by the gut microbiome. Where should we start?
Let's talk about anxiety. You know, that feeling of unease, worry, or fear. Well, research suggests that the gut microbiome might actually influence how strongly we experience those feelings.
So you're saying if my gut bacteria are out of balance, it could actually make me feel more anxious.
That's what some studies are indicating. Research has shown that people with anxiety disorders often have different gut microbiome compositions compared to those without anxiety. It's like their gut bacterial communities are structured differently.
So it's not just about what's going on in our brains, but also what's happening in our guts that could contribute to those anxious feelings.
Exactly. And it's not just anxiety depression, which is another really common mental health condition, also seems to be connected to the gut microbiome.
I've heard about the link between gut health and depression, but I'd love to understand it better. What's the science behind that connection?
Well, research suggests that imbalances in the gut microbiome can disrupt the production and regulation of key neurotransmitters involved in mood, like serotonin and dopamine. Remember, we talked about how those are produced in the gut too, not just the brain?
Right, so if the gut bacteria are unhappy, those neurotransmitters might not be produced in the right amounts. And that could lead to those feelings of sadness and low energy that are so common with depression.
That's the general idea. And it's not just about how much of those neurotransmitters get made. There's also research looking at how inflammation in the gut, which can be influenced by the microbiome, might contribute to depression.
Inflammation, like when you get a cut and the area around it gets red and swollen, that kind of inflammation.
It's a similar idea, but in this case, it's happening inside the gut. Chronic inflammation, especially in the gut, has been linked to a whole bunch of health problems, including mental health conditions like depression.
So we've got anxiety and depression potentially linked to the gut microbiome. Are there any other mental health conditions researchers are exploring in this context?
Absolutely. One area that's getting a lot of attention is the connection between the gut microbiome and autism spectrum disorder, or ASD.
Really? I hadn't heard about that connection. What have researchers found?
Studies have shown that children with ASD often have different gut microbiome compositions than children without ASD.
Interesting. So their gut bacteria might look different. But what does that really mean? How could that be connected to autism?
That's the million-dollar question. Researchers are still trying to understand the complex relationship between the gut microbiome and brain development, but there are some interesting theories popping up.
Like what?
Well, one theory is focused on certain gut bacteria that produce metabolites, or byproducts, that can affect brain function and behavior. Remember those short-chain fatty acids we discussed earlier?
Yes, those little messengers with anti-inflammatory properties.
Right. Well, some of these short-chain fatty acids, like propionic acid, have been shown to influence brain development and have even been linked to some of the behavioral characteristics we see in ASD.
So an imbalance in gut bacteria, leading to different levels of these short-chain fatty acids, could be contributing to the development of ASD.
That's one possibility that researchers are looking into. It's a complex puzzle with lots of pieces, and we need more research to really understand this connection.
This is also fascinating. It really changes how we think about the gut. It's not just about digestion anymore. It's like this hidden control center that affects our mental and even neurological well-being.
I agree. And as research continues, I'm sure we'll uncover even more amazing connections between the gut microbiome and the brain. It's a really exciting area of research.
So we've talked about anxiety, depression, and ASD as areas where the gut microbiome might play a role. Is there anything else out there that has researchers particularly excited? Any cutting-edge research that's really pushing the boundaries of what we know?
There's one area that's getting a lot of attention, and it's called fecal microbiota transplantation, or FMT for short.
Fecal. What now?
I know, it sounds kind of strange at first. But stay with me. FMT involves taking fecal matter from a healthy person and putting it into someone who has an imbalance in their gut microbiome.
Hold on. So you're saying you're taking poop from a healthy person and putting it into someone else?
Basically, yes. But it's done very carefully in a clinical setting. And as unusual as it sounds, FMT has already shown incredible promise in treating certain gut infections, like C. diff.
Wow, that's amazing. So you're introducing healthy bacteria from a donor to try and reset the recipient's gut microbiome and hopefully improve their health.
That's it. And while research in this area is still pretty new, some studies are hinting that FMT could also have benefits for mental health conditions like depression and anxiety.
Are you serious? So one day a fecal transplant could actually help someone struggling with depression. That's incredible. What are some of the challenges or things researchers are considering with this approach?
Well, one of the big challenges is making sure FMT is safe and effective for mental health conditions. We need more research to understand the long-term effects and to figure out which specific bacteria might be the most helpful.
So it's still pretty early for FMT as a treatment for mental health conditions, but it definitely has potential.
Absolutely, and it really shows just how powerful the gut microbiome can be in influencing our overall well-being, including our mental health. It's a rapidly evolving field with lots of possibilities on the horizon.
This has been a truly mind-blowing conversation. It's amazing to think that those gut feelings we talk about might actually have a real scientific basis.
I agree. It just goes to show how important it is to take care of our gut health, not just for our digestion, but for our mental well-being too.
Absolutely. Well, we've covered a lot of ground in the second part of our deep dive, exploring the possible links between the gut microbiome and mental health conditions like anxiety, depression, and even ASD. And we even ventured into the fascinating world of fecal microbiota transplantation.
But our exploration isn't over yet. In the final part of our deep dive, we'll shift gears and talk about practical strategies for nurturing a healthy gut microbiome. You can use these tips to support both your physical and mental well-being. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the gut-brain connection. It's been pretty amazing so far.
We've explored the gut-brain axis and how the microbiome can impact mental health. We even got into those cutting-edge fecal transplants.
Right. It's been mind-blowing.
Yeah.
But now I'm thinking, what can we actually do to help our listeners cultivate a thriving gut microbiome and actually get those mental health benefits we've been talking about?
That's the question, isn't it? The good news is that there's a lot you can do. It all starts with food.
We talked about that a bit earlier,
Yeah.
but I think it's worth digging in a little deeper. What should people focus on to make sure they're feeding those good gut bacteria?
A good rule of thumb is to eat a wide variety of colorful fruits and vegetables and whole grains. They're full of prebiotics.
Right.
Those are the fibers that feed the good bacteria in your gut.
So it's like I'm throwing a feast for my microbiome when I eat lots of different colorful produce.
I like that analogy. And don't forget those fermented foods. They're like probiotic powerhouses, delivering all those good bacteria straight to your gut.
Yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, kombucha, and miso. We talked about those. Are there any other fermented foods people should try?
Absolutely. Tempeh is a great one. It's a fermented soybean product that's a good source of protein and probiotics. And if you're feeling adventurous, you could try natto.
Natto.
Yeah, it's a Japanese breakfast food made with fermented soybeans. It has a unique flavor and texture, but it's really good for you.
Okay, I'll have to look for those. But what about things to avoid? Are there any foods that are especially bad for the gut microbiome?
Processed foods, sugary drinks, and too much unhealthy fat can all disrupt the balance of your gut bacteria.
So those are things to cut back on.
Exactly.
It sounds like cutting back on junk food isn't just good for my waistline.
Yeah.
It's good for my mind, too.
Exactly. Think of it like giving your gut a break from all those things that can mess things up.
Okay, so diet is a big factor.
Mhm.
But what about other lifestyle things? Can those affect gut health, too?
Absolutely. Stress is a big one.
Stress.
When you're stressed all the time, your body releases hormones like cortisol. That can cause problems for your gut microbiome.
So if I can find ways to manage stress, that could actually be good for my gut bacteria.
Exactly. Things like yoga, meditation, spending time in nature, those are all great ways to de-stress and help your gut.
Maybe I should finally sign up for that yoga class. What about exercise? Does that play a role in gut health, too?
It does. Regular exercise has been shown to have a good impact on the gut microbiome.
So all those walks and trips to the gym are good for those good gut bugs.
They are. Exercise helps with blood flow, reduces inflammation, and can even increase the variety of bacteria in your gut.
Wow, I had no idea it was so beneficial.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got diet, stress management, and exercise. Anything else?
Don't forget about sleep. When you don't get enough sleep, it can mess up your body's natural rhythms, including those in your gut.
Okay, so those 7 to 8 hours a night aren't just about feeling rested. It's also about keeping my gut happy.
That's right. Making sure you're getting enough sleep is a simple but important way to look after your gut health. And by extension, your mental well-being.
All of this feels very doable. I like that I can make these small changes to my diet and how I manage stress, exercise, and sleep. And it can make a real difference in the long run.
Exactly. And it's not about changing your whole life overnight. It's about making gradual changes a little at a time that you can stick with.
Right. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
I like that. And remember, it's a journey. There will be days when you eat something you shouldn't, or you don't get enough sleep. It's okay. Don't be too hard on yourself. Just try again the next day.
That's good advice. It's about progress, not perfection.
That's the spirit.
This deep dive has been amazing. We've learned so much about the connection between the gut and the brain. And honestly, I feel like I can make some positive changes in my life now.
That's what I like to hear. Taking care of your gut is an investment in your overall health. It's good for you physically and mentally.
You know what? Maybe by taking care of our gut microbiome, we can experience more mental clarity, be more resilient emotionally, and just be happier overall.
That's a wonderful thought, and I think it's definitely something worth exploring.
I want to thank you for being here and sharing your expertise with us. It's been an amazing conversation.
My pleasure. Remember to keep learning, keep experimenting, and most importantly, keep listening to your gut. It's a wise guide.
Absolutely. And to our listeners, thank you so much for joining us on this journey into the gut-brain connection. We hope you found it useful and inspiring, and maybe even life-changing. Until next time, take care of your gut, and it will take care of you.